Hey everyone, Stephanie here. In this episode and video, we are going to be going over how to calculate your macros in under 5 minutes. If you are watching on YouTube, you are going to be able to see the screenshot of the calculator. If you are listening to this on my podcast, just know I'm also going to link a free macro calculator in the bottom so you can actually access this if you don't want to go through all the calculations on your own. So let's get started. First of all, just a personal story. And what was crazy for me is I used to think that I was eating healthy until I actually learned about macros. And it really turns out that I was way off on my portions, like most people are. And don't worry, just by the end of this video, you are going to know exactly how to calculate your own macros for your goals, whether that's fat loss, maintenance, surplus, or you just generally want to know how to fuel yourself properly and overcome some cravings that you are experiencing. So let's first get into the basics. What are macros? So macros are short form for macronutrients, and there are three main nutrients. There's protein, there's carbohydrates, and there's fats. You might also hear about fiber. Fiber is actually a type of carbohydrate, but it is really important to make sure that we are being mindful of fiber as well. So let's first talk about protein. So protein are essentially the building blocks for your body, and they help build and repair muscle, that helps your immune system, help you stay full longer, helps with recovery. And what's really cool with each macro that we go through is each also has a different thermal effect of food. So what that means is when you eat a certain macronutrient, your body is going to actually spend and burn more energy digesting it. There are so many things that go into how much we burn in a day. And it's also why whatever we're doing today is also an estimation. So you just have to remember, even though we're calculating your macros quote unquote exactly, it is not exact because your body will burn differently based on your movement, your energy, even the food you eat. And so, for example, if you eat 100 calories of protein, you're actually not digesting 20 to 30 calories from that because your body is actually burning calories processing it. And so when we eat more carbs versus when we eat more fats, our body's not working as hard. That's also why people say protein actually improves your metabolism. It doesn't really, it's just working more. Your body is working more to actually eat that food and digest it. So second, let's get into carbs. Carbs are very important. They are not the enemy. Carbs are your main energy source, and your brain actually runs primarily on glucose, which is carbs. So carbs are really important, especially for high intensity workouts, just our mental focus and our basic daily functions. Finally, fats. Fats are very crucial for hormone production, for vitamin absorption, for our immune system, our brain health, our cell function. All three make up a really well-rounded metabolism, metabolic health, and just healthy body. So some of you might be wondering, why not just calculate calories? Why do I need to calculate macros? And so the difference between macros and calories is that calories for sure are what our body burns. Whatever you expend in a day is how much your body is going to burn calorie wise. And whatever food you intake calorie wise is how much your body is taking in. And so what that means is, yes, for weight loss and for gaining weight, we do need to be in either a deficit or a surplus. But it's not just important to look at calories because calories don't actually tell us the quality of the food we're eating. So if you were to look at a calorie counter app, it's going to show 500 calories from chicken and 500 calories from cookies as the same thing, which a calorie is a calorie. That there is no question there. If you eat 500 calories of chicken or 500 calories from cookies, you are getting the same amount of calories. But of course, the nutritional value is different. And so when you eat only cookies or only ice cream, you are not going to feel fully satiated. You're going to feel hungry. And this is going to lead you to continue to eat more and potentially even be in a surplus because you are not managing your hunger well and you're not filling your body with the right food. And so when we look at macros instead of calories, if you are eating 1,600 calories of processed food, not super high quality, not enough protein, it's going to be way harder to stick to that deficit of 1,600 calories than if you were eating 1,600 calories of the right macronutrients. And so that's why counting macros can be way more educational, way better as a tool, and actually help you hit your fitness goals more sustainably because you're actually looking at the quality of food, not just the quantity. So just a quick reality check and what most people don't know. A lot of my clients don't know this, and I also didn't know this before when I became a trainer and a holistic health coach, was that we generally underestimate how much we're eating. There have been a lot of studies that say people tend to underestimate the amount that they're eating by about 25%. So just as an example with peanut butter, I don't know about you, but I was in complete utter shock when I actually weighed what a tablespoon of peanut butter was versus what I thought it was. It was very sad. And so when we actually understand what macros are, what the right amount of food is, we can start to see, oh, maybe that's why I wasn't seeing progress. I just actually wasn't counting correctly. So while we're going to go through macros now, you also want to make sure that you are tracking accurately, especially if you are not seeing changes in your body, because a lot of the times it will come down to the fact that we're not measuring our food properly. Okay. So let's get into calculating your macro section. So grab a calculator or write this equation down. You can always come back to it. Like I said, you're also going to see the screenshot in the video here if you are watching on YouTube. So we are going to be using the Harris-Benedict formula. There's a lot of different formulas out there. So just a reminder, these are all estimations. It is not a one size fit all because this is not going to know exactly how much your body burns. It is all just a based estimate on your height, your weight, your age. And the best way to actually figure out if this is accurate is to apply it, go and do it, and see if you see changes in your body. So for women, the formula to calculate our basic metabolic rate is 655.1 plus bracket 9.563 times your weight in kilograms end bracket plus 1.85 times your height in centimeters end bracket minus bracket 4.676 times your age in years end bracket. And so what this is going to tell us is this is going to tell us your basic metabolic rate, which means the amount of calories or energy your body burns on a daily basis, basically just for your body's need to function. This does not mean this is what you are going to be eating at. This is simply a way for us to determine the next calculation, which is your total daily energy expenditure. So your total daily energy expenditure is actually what your body is estimated to burn on a daily basis with the amount of activity that you are doing. So if you are, for example, let's say your BMR is 1,500 calories from that calculation. The next thing we're going to go ahead and do is calculate your total daily energy expenditure. We do that by multiplying your lifestyle and exercise. So if you are sedentary, I'm going to post a screenshot right here. If you're sedentary, your lifestyle activity is going to be 0.65, lightly active 0.75, moderately active 0.85, very active 0.95, extremely active 1.05. So just to go through them, sedentary would mean you're at a desk job all day, every day. Lightly active is some walking required for your job. Moderately active is several hours per day on your feet with some walking. So that an example with that would be like a teacher. Very active, 0.09, 0.95, you're on your feet all day. This would be, for example, a nurse. And then extremely active, you have a heavy labor job. Maybe you're in construction, maybe you're moving things all the time, whatever that is, that would be extremely active. Now we have your lifestyle activity. So let's say for the purpose of this example, it is going to be 0.75. So some walking required for your job. We then are going to go and figure out your exercise activity. So if you are doing a lot of exercise to a little exercise, you have to pick based on the screenshot here, what is actually most relevant for you. If you're listening on the podcast, I'm going to walk through them. Sedentary would be 0.5. So that's no exercise. Lightly active is 0.6. So that's some light exercise a few days per week. Moderately active, you'd be 0.7. That's regular exercise of at least 60 minutes per day, multiple days per week. Very active, 0.8. That's daily intense exercise of at least 90 minutes. And then extremely active, 0.9, which is daily extreme intense exercise of multiple hours per day. Woof. Okay, if you're listening to this and you're like, holy crap, there are so many numbers. This is so confusing. Don't worry, I got you. Just look at the link in below in the description of this video or episode. You're going to get access to my free macro calculator if you don't want to have to worry about a lot of this. But otherwise, let's go through it. So using our example, our example for our female is 1,500 calories for her BMR. Let's say she is at a desk job all day. So that would be 0.65. And let's say she does regular exercise of at least 60 minutes per day. That would mean 0.7. So what we would do is we would add 0.65 to 0.7, which means we would be at 1.35. So her total activity factor is 1.35. What we do is we take her BMR and we multiply it by 1.35 to get her estimated total daily energy expenditure. So I'm just going to do the calculation on my computer because I can't do that math. So 1,500 calories times 1.35 is 2,025 calories. Now we have 2,025 calories. That is our estimated total daily energy expenditure. And what we can now do is we can now figure out her macros from there. So if she wants to lose weight, we need to figure out a deficit. If she wants to just stay the same weight and just make sure she's eating the right foods, then we just keep her at 2025. If she wants to gain weight, then she would be in a surplus. So let's take an example of fat loss. If she wants to lose about a pound a week, that means she would need to be in a deficit of 500 calories per day. Why is that? Because 1 pound of fat is equal to 3,500 calories, and 3,500 divided by 7 days in a week is 500 per day. We never recommend over a 500 calorie deficit just because we want this to be sustainable. So the range from a 300 calorie deficit to 500 calories is perfect. Let's go with the 300 calorie deficit. So if she wanted to lose, let's say about half a pound a week, what that would mean is she would do 300 calories from her 2025 deficit, meaning she would be eating 1,725 calories per day. Now we are on to the very final step, I promise. So now that we have her deficit, we can now determine her macronutrients. When we're in a deficit, it's really important that we have the right amount of protein because you will get more hungry, and protein as well is going to be helpful for us to not lose lean muscle mass as we lose weight. So with the general rule of thumb, we say 1 gram of protein per 1 pound of goal body weight. If our female wants to be 130 pounds, for example, we would put her at 130 grams of protein. So now that we have 130 grams of protein, and we know that 130 grams of protein is equal to 520 calories, because 1 gram of protein is equal to 4 calories. So what we did is 130 times 4, and she's at 520 calories. Then what that means is we take her 1,725 calories and minus 520 from protein, and we now have 1,205 calories left to basically divide between carbohydrates and fats. So generally we recommend a split of 60% carbs and 40% fats for the remainder of calories left after protein. So in order to figure this out, we would basically just take the remainder of calories left after protein, which is 1,205, and we would multiply that by 0.6, so 60% to get her carbs, and then multiply that by 40% to get her fats. So 1,205 times 0.6 is 723 calories of carbs, and 1,205 times 0.4 is 482 calories from fats. When now to figure out the actual grams, all we need to do is take those calories. So the carb calories we divide by 4 and fat calories we divide by 9. Why? Because 1 gram of carb is equal to 4 calories and 1 gram of fat is equal to 9 calories. So taking that, we get 180 grams of carbs, and we get, I'm sorry, I'm doing this calculation on here at the same time, we get 53 grams of fat. So her total and final macros are 130 grams of protein, 180 grams of carbs, and 53 grams of fats. I always like to round up to the highest number, just like average. So let's go with 55 grams of fats, 180 grams of carbs, and 130 grams of protein, just because I find, it's really important to not get too hyper focused on the exact number of macros, remembering this is all an estimation anyway. And so what we're going to do now is, if let's say Sally, our avatar, is wanting to apply this, she would just go and try to calculate and match those macros for the next 1 to 2 weeks, and she's going to watch and see how her body changes. You will always have to adjust based on hunger levels, based on how your body changes, based on your mood, your sleep. This is all an estimation. It's a really great starting point, but it is not the end all be all or the rule. It is just a framework. So adjust the protocol based on this, give it a try and see how you feel. And if you're finding you're really hungry or you're finding you're not able to stick to it, what we can try to adjust is this split between carbs and fats. Sometimes people like higher carbs to fat ratio. Sometimes people like higher fat to carb ratio. So you can always change that. We did a 60-40 split, but you could do a 50-50 split or a 60% fat and 40% carb split. The one thing I will note though is that we never want to go below 40 grams of fat for females, especially just to make sure we're protecting our hormone health. So as a reminder, I know we went through a ton of numbers, and if I was listening to this, I would be like, what the heck? You can always go back to replay this as many times as you want. But if you just want to erase all of those calculations, you don't want to have to worry about it. I've actually put together a free macro calculator for you. I've also done a video walkthrough of how to use the calculator. So it's super easy. You can calculate your macros in 5 minutes or less. And so just comment macros if you're listening to this on my Instagram live, or just click the link below in the description of this video or episode if you're on YouTube or Spotify podcast, and you will get access to that free macro calculator from there. All right, so thank you so much for listening. I hope this was helpful. Just a reminder, this is not the end all be all. This is a framework. Use macro counting as an educational tool. I can't wait to see you hit your goals, and we will see you in the next video.